Hello and welcome back to my channel, Boozy Bookish Thoughts. I'm Justine, or Jay if you prefer, and welcome to my new video. So today, what are we doing today? We are doing, I'm sure you've seen on the title, I'll probably make the title a bit of a giveaway, but we are doing Autism Acceptance Month, Autism Acceptance Month book recommendations. So it is in the middle of summer. It is the height of summer here in the Philippines. I have the fan going. I am going to denoise this video, but just in case some of the fan sounds come through, I'm so sorry. Either way, I would just be like pouring sweat if I didn't have the fan on. We are drinking Yellowtail Pink Moscato, perfect for a hot summer day. Now, this isn't, I wouldn't say this is one of my favorite wines, but it's definitely one of my standard wines, like one of the ones I go to on a regular basis. It's got a little bit of spritz, and on the back it says zingy and refreshing, bursting with ripe strawberries and red apple flavors. I do hope to do a wine and book night with this someday. I just haven't found like the perfect books to pair them with yet. It's been a while since I drank it also because I've been toning down my drinking. But cheers, look at that lovely pink color. It's so good. Okay, now, so today we're doing an Autism Acceptance Month um video recommendation of books. Now, um you should know, or like, if in case you don't know, most autistics, especially autistics who are active in the self-advocacy spheres, much prefer Autism Acceptance or Appreciation Month over the arguably more popular Autism Awareness Month. Now, aside from the fact that Autism Awareness Month is usually promoted by um, organizations, or at least one particular organization that is generally reviled by the autistic community, there is such a the difference between acceptance and awareness is pretty big, if a little nuanced. Now, the problem with only seeking awareness about something, or about the narrative that surrounds Autism Awareness Month, is that it is usually focused on the deficits narrative. What this means is that it is looking at autistic people as being deficient or less than allistic people or non-autistic people. It has this framework that being autistic in and of itself makes you less than anyone who is not autistic. It's the narrative that sees autism as this thing that needs to be cured, that needs to be fixed. It has this narrative that aut, aut, that autistics, that people like me, are inherently other, and that because we are other, the way to fix things is to make us more like everybody else. Now, obviously, a lot of autistics don't agree with this kind of narrative because we are fine. We are not deficient inherently. We are fine, and our autism is okay with us. It's just that the reason that we struggle isn't because we are inherently deficient, but because we live in a world that isn't designed for autistic people. It means that we are constantly being held up to standards and rules that, one, we don't know about, and two, that are not designed, or were not made up with people like us in mind. So that hardly seems fair. But the point is that acceptance and appreciation, as opposed to awareness, take a lot more work. Acceptance and appreciation mean that you understand and see autistics as an entire being, a fully formed person with our own wants, desires, and needs, and that it requires overcoming prejudices, it requires rethinking former mindsets. And yeah, so whereas the awareness narrative will focus on autistics as the problem and how we need to change to be more like everybody else, acceptance or appreciation would instead focus on how diversity is important and a great strength, and how we need to understand and appreciate and meet people where they are, or at least closer to where we are, in a more equitable manner. So one of the ways that we can move away from awareness and into acceptance or appreciation kind of mindset is by listening to autistic voices, is by understanding the autistic experience from the autistic's perspective. And since this is a booktube channel, what better way to do that than by reading books by autistic authors, right? So we have a list of books here. Not all of these are not all of these I have read personally, but several of them I do have on my TBR. The ones that aren't on my TBR are just fiction books that I don't have a personal preference for, but I'll explain all of that a little bit later. We have some memoirs here, so obviously that's like really autistic voices talking about their life experiences, and we also have some fiction books written by autistic authors that also feature autistic characters on the page. Okay, let me get my list. I need my notes. So the first book is actually the one book that I have read completely on this list, and that is Jennifer Cook O'Toole's Autism and Heals. Now, I have talked about this in a previous video. I think it was a wine and book recommendation video. And this is a memoir of a woman who is on the autism spectrum. For slight trigger warning, in case anyone is curious, this Jennifer Cook O'Toole was diagnosed as having Asperger's syndrome. So that is the terminology that she uses throughout the book. Now, this diagnosis is no longer given, and it is now called autism levels 1, 2, or 3. And some autistics find this term problematic, but me personally, I think that if that was the diagnosis you were given at the time that you were diagnosed, there's nothing wrong with using the diagnosis or the label that you were given. But just a full disclaimer. But basically it's the book revolves around the autistic experience as a woman, and how your womanhood and your autism play into different things, and how you may experience autism differently than men, and more importantly, not just men, but like young white boys on whom the diagnostic criteria was based. So um yeah, it's a fun read. It was what led me on my own self-diagnosis journey, which led to getting a formal diagnosis as well. So this book is very close to my heart. There are major trigger warnings for eating disorder and intimate partner violence, which I personally struggled to read these chapters because they are things I struggle with as well. But definitely it helped me understand how my autism affects those parts of my life as well, and how my autism made me more vulnerable to those kinds of things. And yeah, it's a very important read. I love this book. It's great. Um Check it out if you want to hear about a woman's autism journey, self-diagnosis diagnosis journey. And yeah. Um the next book is by Higashida. Naoki Higashida, or that is The Reason I Jumped. Now, this is written by a nonverbal, or rather non-speaking autistic boy, or boy with autism. I think he prefers the person first language, so I will try and respect that. So he is a nonverbal, or rather non-speaking teen with autism. He's like 13 years old, and he wrote this book where it basically answers a lot of the questions that non-autistics have for him. And he gives this inner perspective and this voice to what a lot of non-speaking autistics experience, and like how they do have a voice and how they do have thoughts and they're fully formed, but that we shouldn't think of them as not being all there just because they don't speak. So it's very interesting. I do want to read this. I haven't found a copy yet that I can afford, but it's definitely on my wish list and on my TBR. The next is Hannah Gadsby's 10 Steps to Nanette. Now, Hannah Gadsby is a speaker slash comedian slash advocate for queer and autistic and ADHD people. She was diagnosed with autism and ADHD in later in life, and this for those who don't know, Nanette was her comedy special, which was really, I think I have a quote here, a scorching critique of the way society conducts public debates about marginalized communities. That's a quote from the book description. Now, that basically sums up Nanette. I've seen parts of it, not all of it, but it's a pretty heavy thing. It's funny, definitely, but it's also pretty heavy. And with this book, she talks about her journey through her life and how being queer and being neurodivergent or autistic and ADHD affected her life and how she negotiated like her relationship with comedy, her relationship with herself, her identity. And yeah, again, this is on my TBR. I definitely want to get to read this soon. So moving on to fiction books. Yes, I am planning an ADHD reader video about how autistics do enjoy fiction, maybe just in a different way than other people. So yes, there are autistic writers writing fiction out there, and one of the most famous books here is Helen Huang's The Kiss Quotient. Now, this is maybe the most famous book on this list. It was, in fact, a Goodreads Choice Award winner. And but I don't think a lot of people know that this is by an autistic author and features an autistic character. Now, the premise of the book is that there is this young autistic woman who is super nerdy, sciency, and numbers based kind of person. And then she enlists the help of a professional escort. I guess this means she hires him. And yes, it's a male escort. So she enlists the help of a professional escort to like study, research, dating, intimacy, and all of that. And of course, they fall in love. I mean, spoiler alert, but I mean, that's the obvious conclusion because this is a romance book. But it's I admit when I first read the synopsis of this way back when this was like a big thing, I wasn't super interested in it. But now that I know it's written by an autistic author and with an autistic character, I might pick it up. But the premise in itself isn't very interesting to me. Just personally, I guess I'm not much of a romance reader in general as well. But I just wanted to include this because it's possibly the most famous book that is about autism, and again, like it won a bunch of awards and stuff. But not a lot of people know that it's by an autistic author and features an autistic character. Like I don't think that's in the press or anything. So check it out if you like romances or if you just want to read about um another about how dating might be like when you're autistic. Another romance book that is written by an autistic author, and this time an autistic author who is black and features persons of color, autistic persons of color as the characters, is Talia Hibbert's After Age Eve Brown. Now, in this case, both male and female protagonists are autistic or are written to be autistic, and they appear to be different in a lot of other ways, which is great because I think this highlights to people how being autistic is not like a one shot deal and how many autistics experience autism in wildly different ways and how no two autistics can be exactly alike. Um, the description is like Eve Brown is a hot mess and whose parents cut her off until she can hold down a job. And Jacob is a bit of a perfectionist who always likes to be in control. And because circumstances happen, they have to work together and figure things out and cooperate. And of course, again, they fall in love. Romance books. That's always what it happens. But I am a bit disappointed, I will admit, with the choice of title because it kind of plays into the infantilization that a lot of autistics experience. But I have heard great books about. I've heard great things about this author and about this book, and even this series, because this is part of the Brown Sisters series, which I've heard good things about in general. So I will still recommend it, and I will still also put it on my own TBR because this sounds like a little something more like what the kind of romance that I would be interested in rather than the Kiss Cushion. Moving on to the books that are in the genres that I like, which are sci-fi. In fact, I have started reading the first book, the next book. Even with the fan on, I'm still sweating. Oh my god. Anyway, so the next book is Ada Hoffman's The Outside. Now, this is so exciting. I started reading this and I'm only like first or second chapter, but it's really good. And it's about this autistic scientist who developed this kind of awesome new technology. But even though she suspects something is wrong, no one will believe her. And she's trying to like delay the launch so that she can figure out what's wrong. But no one's listening to her, and everyone's like, no, it's fine, the math is fine. It's like, you're being too concerned. They're really like downplaying her nerves and like just saying you're just young, you're nervous, blah blah blah. But obviously the launch happens and something terrible happens. I haven't reached that part yet in the book, so I'm not sure what happens, but like something terrible happens, and then she gets arrested and brought before the AI gods. I know, AI gods. It's the world building of this is insane. The AI gods who rule the galaxy, and in exchange for her life, the AI god sent her on this quest to search for her old mentor who disappeared. Now, I know it's such a space opera. Like, I am about a chapter or so in, and like, there's queer romance, there's incredible world building with like the AI gods and their priests and all of that, and it just sounds like it's just shaping up to be like, and it sounds like it's going to be such a fun space opera. And it is written by an autistic author, and it features an autistic main character, and she is blatantly autistic. Like, they talk about her autism, like she talks about being autistic and all that, and they talk about her sensory quirks and all that. And she is also in a queer relationship. And yeah, according to the reviews, it touches on themes such as morality, disability rights, and personal agency. So I haven't reached all that heavy stuff yet, but I'm super excited. I am reading this and I'm super excited to get further into it. The next book is another, I don't know if you'd call this science fiction. It's more like apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic fiction, but I'm also super excited to read this. I can't find a copy yet, but I am looking. And that is Corinne Duivis. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Corinne Duivis On the Edge of Gone. So this author, Corinne, is the originator of the Own Voices hashtag, so hashtag Own Voices, which identifies books where the authors share the same underrepresented identities as the characters they write about. So the goal of this hashtag is to like amplify these voices and these books, which discuss marginalized or underrepresented identities by people who actually share that identity. So again, the author is autistic, and this features an autistic main character. So it's an apocalyptic thriller, and as most apocalyptic fiction does, it touches on some really heavy themes. So it's 2035, and like there's an asteroid or a comet that's about to hit the Earth, and there's this young girl. I'm not sure how young she's supposed to be, but she's a young girl, and she's with her sister and her drug addicted mother in Amsterdam, I think. Now the main character, the girl, is autistic, and she and her like sister and her mother are looking for shelter because again the comet's about to hit. And then they come across one of the last spaceships that is designated to like ferry people away from Earth into like the new worlds and to like rescue people so that, you know, they don't live through the apocalypse. And this is their last chance out. However, they're only taking people who have skills or who are worthy to the new world, who would be useful to the new colony. And so this sparks like this huge conflict on whether or not like her autism would disqualify her from getting onto the ship. What about her mother, who is drug dependent or drug addicted, or what about her sister even? You know, so it's like this huge question just surrounding their family, but also about like so many other people who are still struggling to survive or get out from this apocalyptic scenario. And this premise is amazing. Not the least of which because just like all good speculative fiction, it takes real world current day issues and extrapolates it to their logical end. Now, if you spend any time within the autistic community or even the neurodivergent community as a broader whole, um, you will find stories of people who are afraid to get formal diagnoses of their autism because there are rumors or anecdotes of so many things that you will be denied simply because of that diagnosis, such as being denied being able to adopt a child or to foster children. You'll be denied rights or being able to be denied citizenship from a country that you've immigrated to. And, you know, there are these real world issues here. And this is only talking about autistics. What's more about someone who is drug addicted and needs rehabilitation? The way we treat drug addicted people in this world, in this society, is awful. And so, um, this book, I think, based on that premise, takes all of these issues and like draws them to their like logical conclusion in an apocalypse, you know? And I'm definitely reading this. I'm looking for a copy. I think based on some other things I've read that this is kind of YA fiction, you know. I Because like the cover of the book that I saw featured a younger girl than I thought. So I think she's supposed to be in her early teens. I'm not sure, don't quote me on this. If you know more about this book, please leave comments down below. I would love to know more. Um but so as you can see, I've got a lot more reading to do. I discovered so many new books just researching for this video, and I was like, oh my god, add everything to my TBR, just everything I need to read all of this. And um I'm really excited to read my new discoveries. First, I'm going to focus on finishing The Outside by Ada Hoffman, and I will be filming my next wrap up over the weekend, so I doubt I'll be able to finish it by then. It is several hours long. I'm listening to it on audiobook, but hopefully by the end of May, I'll be able to give you a wrap up on it. I also think it's the first in a series, so let's see if I will continue the rest of the series. Um, in the meantime, for the rest of April, if you want to amplify autistic voices, please support autistic self-advocacy or organizations in which autistic voices are put front and center. One example of this is the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. So they work to center autistic voices and the autistic dialogue and to center the dialogue around autism, around disability rights and human rights. So I will leave a link for their website in the description bar. Or if you just want to learn more about autism and grow your appreciation or acceptance of autism, then maybe check out one of these books. These are all fun books. They're accessible through Amazon. Some of them are accessible on Scribd. And yeah, listen to autistic people, listen to them when they talk about their autism. And yeah, cheers.